May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Christ, our strength and our Redeemer. Please be seated. One of the biggest non-medical killers in today's society is loneliness. All of us, at some point in our life, will face periods of being alone. And it throws up a multitude of feelings: abandonment, fear, isolation, vulnerability. And it is a good reminder that God did not create us to walk this earth alone. There is that good old English saying, no man is an island. Days spent alone without the company of others tend to drag. Remember that first day at school, leaving the safety of our parental home, wondering if our mum would ever come back for us. Perhaps a single mum, at home all day alone with her children, longing for the company of others, just some adult conversation. The death of someone we love leaves us feeling bereft. Perhaps we have left countries and families to start a new life, and we wonder how we will cope without our loved ones, where we will go, what will happen, who will guide us, and who will stand up for us. Does anyone even care? These are all questions that loneliness and the feeling of being alone can bring. We all need someone to stand by our side, to share our deepest fears with, a friend to give advice, to provide a listening ear as we pour out our worries, someone to laugh with, to make memories with, someone to stand by our side and fight our cause when things go wrong. A true friend that acts in love for us. Sometimes they may tell us things and truths we don't want to hear. Sometimes they may be the only person that stands by our side when everyone else has left. There is nothing more touching than a family or friend that stands by the side of a person accused or convicted of crime, despite the very shame it brings on them too. And they do it because they love that person, because they don't want them to feel abandoned or without hope. Many of you here are going through the long, drawn-out process of asylum, and you must have similar feelings. But knowing that you have a friend, knowing that someone cares, that someone is willing to stand up and fight with you by your side, to fight that long battle, however long it takes, to stand up and shout out against the unfair system, must make you feel less alone. That is what an advocate does. And the best advocate is a true friend who will stand by you, who will respect you and value you and love you, even when you have messed up, even when everything and everyone seems stacked against you. We were never meant to stand alone. God created us to be loved and to love. Keep my commandments, says Jesus. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. And what does Jesus say is the greatest commandment? To love one another as I have loved you. The disciples were feeling the very same feelings that we feel as Jesus starts to tell them he must leave them finally. He has been their friend. He had been on their side, guided them, built their confidence, shown them the way and empowered them. He taught them. They left everything to follow him. Families, jobs, villages. And now he's abandoning them, leaving them alone. And the fear creeps in. And those solid foundations he has given them start to crumble. Jesus knows how they feel. For he too cried out the same from the cross. My God, why have you forsaken me? So Jesus does as any good friend would do. He reassures them. I can imagine them all sitting there, firing questions at him. And he says, be still. Peace. Let me explain. I know the 12 of us have been tight. We've done so much together. And I know you love me. Well, don't worry. I'm still caring for you. I'm not going to leave you. In fact, what I want you to do is to carry on living the Jesus way. The way I've shown you. The way I've taught you. Yes, at times you haven't completely understood, even though the last 3 years I've been by your side, set you an example. But don't worry, because although I won't be around in person, you won't be left alone. For I am going to ask God to send you the advocate. He will be your new supporter. He will guide you and strengthen you. And I'm sure the disciples must have been thinking, who is this man? And why, if he's so good, haven't we met him yet? Why hasn't he already been with us? Why hasn't Jesus introduced him to us? Jesus tells them, you already know him, because he is in me. Yes, many won't understand, but the important thing is, you will not be alone, defenceless. You won't be like sheep without a shepherd, children without parents, like a refugee without a lawyer. In fact, you will never be alone again. And to prove this, after I die, you will see me again. I will show myself to you, and you will realise I still live. And everything will fall into place. And no matter what life throws at you, how you are betrayed by people or situations, even when you mess up yourself, you will know you are not alone. Even when your families are thousands of miles away, even when someone you love dies, a piece of them remains in your heart, because love never ends. Isn't it wonderful to think that no matter what we do in the future, how many cock-ups we make, whoever we are, wherever we are from, whatever our status in life, God will never abandon us. I will not leave you. That is the promise. How complicated it must have sounded to the disciples. In one breath, Jesus is saying he is leaving, and in another, he is telling them he will still be there. And the point is, for us today, the question we must ask ourselves, is God for us an absent God or a present reality? A story in the Bible that happened to others, or a living, breathing relationship we have that makes us challenge the way we live, how we treat others, how we fight against injustice and oppression, how we stand alongside others against a world that is content to treat them unfairly. The answer, Jesus says, is love. How we love our neighbour. how we love those who have wronged us. How do we choose whose feet to wash and whose to leave dirty? And do we even leave anyone out? Simply by loving others, we show our love for Jesus. And every time we love, every time we stand up against injustice, oppression, stand with the marginalised, we push the boundaries of this world back. We create more space within our hearts for the dwelling of the Spirit. Every time we show love to the addict, the homeless, the refugee, we are showing the world the Jesus way. We are showing that unconditional love given to us by the Father and Jesus. Love one another as I have loved you. And you can find that love in the most unexpected of places. A strange turn of events, or pieces of a puzzle in your life that randomly slip into place. You can see Jesus in the most unexpected of people. The kindness of a stranger, the support of a friend, the promise, I will never leave you, no matter what. So if we want to live the Jesus way, we must not abandon others to the ravages of this world. We must love with all that we are and all that we have. The Spirit will guide us. It will strengthen us, and we know Jesus is still with us, still by our side, sat in the very person beside you. And as we walk towards that altar, we will find him in the breaking of the bread. Our God is not an absent God, but a very present God. Listen for that still small voice. Look for the workings of the Spirit, and take at that altar rail to see that we are in him and he is in us. Amen.
Amen.